Okay, so welcome back to my Minimax 1100r build, and today we are doing a little bit of problem solving. So, you know, there comes a time in every project where you think you caught it all and you thought far enough ahead and that you weren't going to miss anything, but then you get a little bit down the road and you go, oh man, I wish I would have thought about this way back before I sheeted the bottom of this thing, but I didn't. And so then you have to scratch your head a little, figure it out, and go from there. But I'll show you what's taken place. When the fuselage was on the table, it was sitting in this configuration. Just like this is how it was built, flat against the table down here. And I took great care to make sure that this part of the fuselage stayed completely straight from here to here. And you know, wood is wood. It's gonna do kind of do its thing a little bit, no matter how hard you try to make it conform to something. But so there are always little minor imperfections, and like completely straight is one thing, dead straight is something completely different. Well, in the landing gear area here, you see I've got a mark right here where my landing gear starts. And what I did to accomplish this is I went on the inside of the fuselage and I used a reference point of this member back here that the control stick mounts to, and I measured forward to get a good distance, and then I drilled through with a 16th inch drill bit in both locations so that I could have that correct. And then I just did some triangulating. I put a bolt in back here, and then I measured from here all the way up to this point, and then I did the same on that side, and then I even went to the center line up here and measured from there to here and from there to here, and they all worked out just right on. So everything's nice and square. I'm confident the landing gear is going to be right where it needs to be, but along this edge, see on this side, there's just a slight curve in this. I don't know if you can see that from that line back to there, and that doesn't work out too well. Here's what I should have done. I'll start with that. Before I put this sheeting on, if I would have taken up some of the steel I've been working with, or a steel angle or something, and came in here and clamped this for the distance that this needed to remain straight, if I would have just put some clamps in here and then put these members in after those clamps were in place on both sides. So if you still have to do this, that's what I totally recommend, is I would get something really rigid and I would put it on the side. I think even a nice 2x4 or something would have worked, and then put these cross members in. Then that's going to guarantee that this section right in here is staying nice and straight. But I didn't do that, so now I have to figure out what I'm going to do here, and I think I have an idea of how I'm going to do it. What I'm going to do is, well, let me show you the result of this. The landing gear, this is my right side. The landing gear needs to, here, let me get my tripod so you can see this better. Landing gear gets attached using this hinge here, and you can see where I've cut that angle on there. So this goes right there, but I'm touching with the hinge here, but I can't hear and I can't hear. So it's got that little rock to it. So that's what I'm solving for. So what I have to do in essence is I have to do something like this. I've got to have something flat that forms to the fuselage. It gives me a nice flat surface here to actually mount to. So let me grab a couple things and we can start to figure out how this is going to work out. All right, so here's what I've got going on here. I found the flattest section of this on both sides. It's about 6 3/8 back from my reference point here, and I'm actually setting back a 1/4 inch. I'll show you why here. If you put this piece matches kind of the distance that I've got to deal with. You can see that there. And I'm just coming back about a 1/4 inch from the front edge right here. I'm setting this back a 1/4 inch, and you can see it's just slightly larger than the hinge. That'll allow me to put a nice little taper on the front and back edge, and I'll be able to match the match things up, fair them in nice best I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually I'm going to put this block in here and clamp it right about there, and I'll just come right into the middle. This is the flattest part, so once I get that clamped in place, then I'll actually be able to come in here with this piece, and I'm going to put that in. Take that back. We're going to clamp. I was in the wrong location. I'm actually going to clamp the block here. That's funny. The block will get clamped here, and then we'll come in. We'll put this piece in here, and we'll put it up to our 1/4 inch line, and then I'll be able to actually come underneath, and I can make some marks for how much of this material I need to cut. It's going to be a little bit of an arc, basically. So I'll know how much of this I need to take off. And what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to leave myself a little extra so that I stand off just a little bit, just to make sure that I have a nice flat piece. So, all right. So in order to do that, I'm thinking I may. Let me get a look at this here. So my block is here, and this comes up next to it, and it's right there. There's almost no material back here that needs to come off at all, and then there's quite a bit toward the front edge, and none through here. So if I come out, let's say 1/8 of an inch, that may be better. It might actually be better. So I think what I'll do is I'll go dado this piece about 1/8 of an inch. Because what's going to happen if I don't do that, I'm going to end up with 2 tapers. And it's going to be kind of difficult to make sure those are in the right location if I don't just leave a little extra material. So what I'm going to do is draw a line here. I don't want to end up with a taper in the front and the back. I want to end up with something going straight across. So I'm going to go dado. Alright, so I've just got my bar clamp, and you can see I just dadoed that a little bit, and this will sit in here, And then all I have to do is just line this up with my mark. Right here. So I just line my board up with this mark. And then I just line this up with that mark. And all I have to do is come under here, draw my line, and then I'll go to the table saw, and I'll be able to cut it out. And I want to make sure I've got a nice flat outside edge, so I think I want to do it this way. Alright, so let me get this clamped in place here. Alright. So now we're ready to take the pencil and make our mark underneath. I'm going to take it apart a second. I just had a thought. Something I need to do here. I really think I need a square reference line, because I need to make sure that I'm not like toed in or toed out. That makes sense to you. So. Alright, so what I've done is I made a reference line all the way across the fuselage here, and I'm going to use that with my square to make sure that this board, when I get it clamped in place, is actually maintaining, that it's staying square to that line. So, and you know, I can see right here that it's got to rotate just a little bit. I can flip it around this way and look at it over a longer distance too. There I'm off quite a bit. I've actually got to be like here, so it's got to go this way. So it's going to be important that I make sure that I'm square to that line on both sides. This can move just a little bit, so I'll have to shim behind here just to make sure that I'm maintaining the square. This way. Alright, so now I'll check that out. That actually looks good right there. I'm just going to come under here with my pencil. Since I'm flat across the middle, I don't have to worry about that part. All I gotta do is connect the lines. All right, so there's my mark, and I'm ready to go cut that one out. There's really good news, which means this worked great. As far as this goes. this did exactly what I wanted it to, like that. But unfortunately, I actually made it a little bigger than my hinge, and I needed to make it a little bigger than my gear leg, so yeah, I gotta make a couple more. Alright, so I got those two made here. I've got them marked for the left side and right side, obviously. This one goes on the other side, this one goes on this side. Interestingly enough, they're just a little bit different. The one on the right side, a little more material on the front and a little more material on the back. But the important thing to remember is that the area right here, that was the squarest, is what I used as my reference point. So it just means that side tapers just a little bit more than this side, which I don't have to think about, because I know that this center line here goes all the way through the plane to the very center line of the tail, and that is exact. So if these bent a little more than the other, they end up in the right place, and it's no big deal. So now I'm going to get these epoxied in place, and you can see here I have a little bit of an edge here where the bottom plywood didn't exactly lap over the side plywood, because I didn't want to have to go buy a whole nother 4-foot wide sheet to make this happen. So what I'll do is, once I get these in place, I'll just end up filling this gap probably with a piece of plywood, or I'll use some silica and epoxy and fill that in and just create a nice hard surface there. So I'll just have to mix up some epoxy, get these two like this, and I'll show you. It actually worked out really well. I'm super happy with how this came out. I mean, obviously it's gonna visually, it's gonna have a little bit of a different look, but like I said, I'm gonna taper the front edge of this, and where it'll show up the most is from the top side. You'll actually have this little ledge here, and I'll probably end up, maybe I left just a little extra material so I can just kind of round that edge off, and so it's just not a sharp edge, but it'll be fine. Yeah, so that goes there, and once I put my straight edge against it, it gives me a nice exact straight edge. So when we get to the gear, here, right here, pull this forward a little bit. You can see I'll have the material I need to bolt through and provide the necessary support for the landing gear. Once I get this set, later on when we're making the axle, I will account for what is probably going to be a 1/4 inch overall extra distance. This is about a little over 1/8 of an inch. So I'll basically take a measurement, and I'll add that to the axle so that I end up in the same place. So yeah, since everything is custom fit from there out anyway, it won't really it'll have very little effect. So okay, that's how we're going to solve that one. All right, so thanks for hanging out with me today. I was able to get these in place, and they look really nice and straight on the outside. And I've just got them clamped in place. I did get some, I had some leftover epoxy, so I did get some silica to mix in over there. And I'll fill this one next time I'm gluing something, which hopefully will be tomorrow. So gonna let that set up, and then once that's done, we'll actually be able to go to the next step on the landing gear and get the holes drilled through for the well, we'll have to drill the axle for the holes, and then we'll put the brackets on. Then we'll drill the holes through the fuselage to hold the hinges on, and then once we get all that done, then we'll be able to shape the front and back edge of that block that we have there. We'll just tidy those up, and yeah. So you know, this is what you got to do. I mean, sometimes you forget something, or something doesn't work out exactly like you planned, so you get a plan and then you execute it, and you move on. That's the name of the game. When you have these challenges, the hard part is sometimes you get stuck and you slow down because it's hard to move past it. So you start doubting yourself and thinking, geez, you know, is this the right solution? Is it not the right solution? Should I do this? Should I not do this? You just got to make a decision to go. That's kind of how I look at it. So I made mine. I'm good. All right, I'll catch you later.